So in this video, I'm going to prepare a takeoff of framing lumber for this structure here. So once you've got it drawn, then basically it's pretty easy to count what's in front of you, and so we're just basically going to count up the components of this building, and we're going to make a spreadsheet. Okay, so the three tabs I'm going to use, the three things we're going to look at are this drawing. We're going to look at the lumber sizes down here that are in available in lumber stores, and then we're going to head over to, in this case, we're going to head over to Rona and price that stuff, and then we're going to track our pricing in this spreadsheet and come up with a total. Okay, so first of all, let's take a look at this building, and what you need to do is you need to break this down into, or think of it in terms of its common components. For example, all the studs are the same length. How many do you have? And you record that. Your wall plates, how long are they? And you're going to record that, and so on. When we head over to the lumber store, you're going to find lumber available in these sizes. Okay, so you've got if we're dealing with 2x4s and 2x6s, then these are the different lengths that you can go and buy. Okay, 92 and 5/8. That's called a pre-cut. That's a stud that once it's in a wall, it creates an 8-foot. It creates an 8-foot ceiling height in a finished house. So this might be useful if your walls are maybe, if your walls are maybe 7 feet high or something like that, then you might want to buy that instead of buying an 8-footer, because it's a little bit cheaper. And then the increments of 2 feet starting at 8, so 8, 10, 12, 14, 16. Now the 14s, I actually haven't seen them in a while, and so you may not find those, but you should be able to find 8s, 10s, 12s, and 16s. So over to the building now. So for example, let's take a look at wall plates. So again, you want to group like components, and so if we just take a look at the wall plates, then basically you've got a plate down here, that's a bottom plate, which is the same as the one on the far side way over there. Okay, so those are two that are the same. And similarly, you've got these two top plates. And don't worry about the fact that, like, at the building corner, so down in here at the building corner, like there's one plate, that top plate there is a little bit longer than the second top plate or the double top plate. Don't worry about that little difference. Just order the longer, just assume that they're both the same length for the purpose of ordering. And so let's say that top plate is, let's say it's under 16 feet long. If that's the case, then you can just count. You've got 2 here, you've got 2 on the other side. And you know what, if it were me, see this bottom plate here, I would just count that with those top plates, and whatever's left over here, I'm going to use that up for blocking, or I'll use it somewhere. So I'm just going to say that's 3, that I'm looking at 3 16-foot pieces, and same on the other side. So that's a total of 6. Okay, so over on my spreadsheet in Google Sheets, I'm going to have what are called long plates. See that? So I've got 6 long plates. They're 2x4s. They're 16 feet long. And we'll look up the cost in a second here. Okay, but let's go back to SketchUp for a second. So that's what you're doing. You're looking for like components, and they don't have to be exactly the same length, but it helps. As for the windows, okay, so when you're counting up studs, okay, so you start counting your studs up, and then when it comes to a window here, you can look at this window and you can say, well, there's a sill. There's 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 5 cripple studs. Okay, so there's 5 cripple studs and 1 sill. The sill looks roughly the same, similar in length to the cripple studs, and they all look under half of a stud length. So I would just quickly look at that, and I would say, there's 6 pieces, so why don't I order 3 or 4 studs just to take care of that. The trimmer studs are shorter than the king studs, but don't worry about it. Okay, just order the trimmers the same length as the studs, so just count them as the same. And so in terms of stud, it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 for the trimmer and king, 6, 7 for the other trimmer and king, and then 8, 9, 10, that'll take care of these things. And then work your way around the building like that. Okay, and then rafters and joists. So the joists are all the same. Okay, so those are relatively easy. The rafters, you just order a longer piece than you actually need, so you just measure that, and You just measure it and make sure that you order a longer piece than is required. Okay, so that's roughly. You don't have to be exact here. You know that's roughly 7'8" or so. So I would order. You could order an 8-footer for that, and that'll give you enough left over. Okay, now let's go over to the framing page here. So this is Rona. This is just Rona, and it's under the framing section. So they browse by category. You don't have to use Rona, but this is an example. Products, building supplies, framing. Okay, and this takes you to the lumber. So you just find the size that you're after. There's a 2x6x8 right there. So that piece would do your rafter. That's $8.69 each. There's a 2x4/8. I think I'm using 2x4/8s myself for that. That's $6.19 each. Okay, and now if you can find something that says, see, it says spruce number 2 and better. Okay, then that's what's required, spruce number 2 or better. Okay, the fact that they say select here, I don't believe that's, it's probably spruce number 2 or better. But anyway, so then you're going to take those prices and you're going to populate these cells here, okay, unit cost and so on. As for using a Google Sheet, if you've never used one, then it works on formulas. So you just put, like, see the 6, you just put that in. And I'm looking up here. You see up here? Whatever I type here appears up in this bar here. So 2x4 appears up there. 16-footer appears up there. Okay, now I put the unit cost in, and again, that appears up there. And then over here, you have to put a formula in. And if you've never done this before, I'm going to erase this, okay? And I'll show you what you do. So you click on the cell, and then you type an equal sign. And you see the equal sign, it appears here. It also appears up in the upper left, okay? Now I'm going to type a math equation. So here goes. Well, actually, I don't have to type. I just have to click. So I'm going to say that I want 6 times 1549. So the quantity times the unit cost. So I'm going to click on here. And that, see, that appears in here. It says B5. That refers to these cells. See the B up here and see the 5 over here. So I click once on there. It appears here. And I put a multiplication sign, which is an asterisk, like that. Okay, it's not an X, it's an asterisk. So that times the unit cost, this, and then return, and that gives me my number. Okay, now the next one, so I'm going to get rid of these ones for a second. Okay, so that's how to create a simple formula. Now if I want to copy that down, then basically I'm going to grab it here. So watch the cursor, it turns to a hatch mark there, or a cross. Okay, so don't grab it over here, don't grab it down here, grab it where that blue button is. Okay, and you don't want the hand, you want the cross. You see that? Click and drag and bring it down like that. And that copies the formula down, but it moves the equation down. So instead of B5 times F5, instead of B5 times F5, it is B6 times F6. So it drops a row. Okay? And you can kind of populate like that coming down. Down here in the subtotal, I'm going to get rid of these numbers here. So in the subtotal here, you want to add all these numbers. So once you populate all this stuff, you want to add all that. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to highlight. Okay, I'm going to highlight this. I didn't use the cross that time. 1 second, my computer is catching up with me. There we go. So I didn't use the cross that time. I just used the arrowhead. Okay, dragged it down like that. And there's a symbol up here. You see this Greek symbol here? So this is the sum symbol. So you want to click on this word sum. And it goes like that. And then you accept it by hitting return. Okay? and that gives you, so that adds all the numbers in this column get added up and placed in that cell. And then you need to calculate the tax. So you have to type an equation, equals, and you click on this cell, that times asterisk 1.13, or let's just do 0.13, and that separates out the tax. And then you need to add these two to get a total. So like you highlight those two, you hit the sum like that, and return like that, and that gives you this. Okay, so you're going to go through your structure. You're going to find all the light components. You're going to go to Rona, Home Depot, or Lowe's. You're going to figure out the unit cost of each piece, and then you're going to come in here and populate this and add them up. And that, my friends, is your framing takeoff. Thanks a lot.